Good evening. Welcome to Elevating Empowering Conversations hosted by I Declare the Word, a magazine created to inspire, encourage, and motivate the lives of others. Also include topics of interest, daily declarations, and life quotes to read. I will tell you a little about Elevating Empowering Conversations after I introduce the ladies that are part of this platform. We have Annette McGee.
Hello.
Rochelle Williams.
Good evening, everyone.
Thank you, ladies, for joining in this evening. Our focus is to encourage, empower, and educate people to see life situations from multiple viewpoints and be open-minded. Having a conversation with a desire to learn, deepen your understanding, and strengthen to become a better version of you. Today, we will talk about self-care. Self-care is a very important topic where a lot of times we don't think about taking care of ourselves. So we will define what is self-care, which is taking care of oneself to promote good health, taking charge through actively managing yourself in a healthy way to help prevent sickness and disease. So as we go on to cover self-care, we will talk about the different types of self-care. In the first area that we will cover is emotional self-care. So ladies, would you like to join in and let's talk about emotional self-care?
Yes, well, emotional self-care is identifying and acknowledging your feelings, thoughts, and behaviors and finding healthy ways to express your emotions.
Well, that's a good definition. Because when you talk about emotional self-care, we have to know how to channel our emotions in a positive way. Sometimes we can channel it in a negative way.
I think we should also try to make sure we are identifying our emotions, like what we're feeling, and correct, to a certain extent, find ways to, I guess self-care would be finding ways, if it's negative, to what can make it positive, what things can we do to change that emotional state.
Right.
And then also our emotions change depending on what the circumstances is, what are we, what we're dealing with at that particular time. So it's very important to keep those emotions under control.
And that's a very good point that you make, because if you think about it, things are going well, normally our emotions will reflect that. When we have some type of encounter or something going on in our lives, that will affect our emotions too, and normally you can tell. But I think the balance is trying to maintain a healthy, emotional state. And even if you get angry or whatever you're feeling, try not to let it get so out of control where, your emotions is just way out there somewhere.
Right, that's true. That's true. And another thing people that, don't realize is, your environment can change your emotions as well.
That is true. And then also, since you brought that up, relationships can change your emotions, especially if you have had a negative relationship. It can change your emotions, how you feel and how you act. So it's so many different contributing factors on how your emotions can play a role as far as how you respond. So I think self-care is really important to manage it and keep it under control.
Yeah, to add to that, like fatigue, tension, stress, all of those type things can also affect your emotions. Sometimes like when you're really tired, you shouldn't even try to deal with heavy things, because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to be like emotionally in the right place to be dealing with something really important. So it's better to get that rest and wait to try to deal with it at a better time.
Agree with you. That's a great point when you said that about the emotional self-care. Also, what I would like to do is talk about mental self-care because the intertwined is connected as well.
Yes.
Except for the mental self-care is dealing with your mental awareness as far as mentally how you feel, whether you're depressed, whether you're fearful, whether you feel anxious, and emotional part of it, so it can't intertwine. I think that your mental state can affect your emotions as well, and your emotions can affect your mental state. So when we talk about mental self-care, you want to be able to keep your mind in a healthy place.
Yes.
And I think that's so important because life can actually change the way you feel mentally as well.
That's true. And also it's okay to take some time out for yourself. You can't do everything. You have to take some time out for yourself and regroup.
And that is so true. You do need to do that. And I think by you saying that, mentally and emotionally, that really will help a person because then you take time out to really see, clear your mind. Sometimes we just have to clear our mind. And I think that's good for our mental health. Maybe taking time out and relaxing, clear your mind of the stress or thinking too hard or whatever may make you feel down. Just put it to the side and just be able to exhale.
Yes.
Be able to do something to, make you feel like you want to release that.
That's true.
Would positive affirmations or stuff like that help elevate your mental state? Is that something you would consider something to help you with the mental state? Positive affirmations.
You're right in that. I love positive affirmations because it's a pick me up. It can empower you, and you never know how it can touch somebody else because you don't know what people are going through. And I think affirmations is great because there's so many different types of affirmations that you can put out there. So I'm in 100% agreement with you on that. And then inspirational quotes and sayings and that people may put out. I think that helps too as a lifting up and take your mind off of whatever it is that might be bothering you.
Right.
And sometimes it's like having someone you can talk to, just a friend, like, because I think as human beings, we don't want to vent or dump garbage or stuff on people, but sometimes you have to bounce things off a trusted source.
Yeah.
Someone who's not going to take the information and run and paste it on Facebook, but someone that you can talk to that'll give you some quality feedback to help that mental state as well.
That's a good sound advice.
Yes.
I think that makes a big difference because sometimes you can bounce it off and people don't give you the right advice. And that can be dangerous.
That's true.
So I think that you really have to know who you can talk to and whether or not the voice of reason is really a good voice of reason for you to listen to. So I think that's something well-rounded that people have to keep in mind when you're talking about that. And so also too, mental self-care also has to do with keeping your mind stimulated.
Yes.
Nurturing your mind. And one way of doing that is reading. Like I like to read. I'm an information person. I love to look up information. I love to learn something new. Whether I understand it or not, I'll try to figure it out, or it'll be a conversation with somebody who can help me, but it just keeps my mind alert. So I really enjoy being able to have different conversations and learn something different where it keeps your mind active and keep it healthy.
I would agree. I'm like the type of person, like, I don't say I get bored easy, but I kind of do. So I'm always trying to make sure I keep things going on in my life, so, and then I remember back years ago, I guess I was in a class at school or something, and the wheel that has all of the different types of it's self-care, but they were actually just basic things about each person, each individual human being experience, like the emotional, the financial, the intellectual, the education, all these different aspects of their life. So you mentioned earlier about being well-rounded. Since that was like on a wheel, that was my definition. So if I nurture and try to keep myself educated or invest in these areas all around this wheel, I felt that would make me a well-rounded person. So you're right, just it's so many aspects of our life, and we can get out of balance by just focusing in one area when we should be trying to be all over that wheel, because all of those are parts of our life, our human nature, I guess.
That's true.
That's good,
I mean, that's
yeah.
a valid point that you made, because well-rounded, or I say holistically, all areas has to be covered: the emotional, the mental, the spiritual, the physical. It's so many of them, but holistically, you can't just focus on one area and neglect the other areas. And I think also too, spending time, going on vacations, relaxing your mind. I think that's good for your mental health, where you can go and have fun, you can laugh, you can joke, that really helps, because then what it does is open up the door for you to be able to enjoy life and not be serious and not be stressed all the time.
Right.
So I think that makes a big difference. I come from the world of being a workaholic, but I'm enjoying this time now because the balance, I'm older and I want to be able to, have a balance with my mental health, emotional health, all of it.
And, I was thinking, overworking yourself too weighs on your mental health as well.
True.
Because you're stressed, because you're trying to do this and you got a, certain time, it needs to be done, and you weigh down with trying to figure out, how I'm gonna get this done, and you're taking on outside tasks as well as your job profession, and all that weighs down, and at some point you'll break.
That's true. That is so true. So that's something that we really have to think about, when we talk about the mental health, and then, so also we have to consider social self-care, how we connect with others. So what do you ladies think about social self-care?
Well,
Me first. Go ahead, Nat.
Pretty much, you kind of nailed it right there. Social self-care is connecting with others. It is getting out. It is having a part of your life where you spend time with family, friends, or just being outside of just yourself, doing activities, doing things that teach you new things, doing fun things, educational things, whatever. I mean, going to the movies. Sometimes people, there's like a limited amount of things to do. Some things are free, some things you may have to pay for, like painting classes or cooking classes.
Right.
But even going to like exercise classes, with someone, sharing experiences like that, hiking, having, going out to dinner, going to the movies, doing different things where there's activities involved, but you get a chance to socialize with other people. Socializing with other people really broadens your horizon and your aspect of life as well, because you can learn so much from other people and experiences.
That's true.
That's true. I think that's something that we need to consider. Plus, social self-care will help you to be able to form relationships with other people and be able to understand, what it's like to be able to connect with others. Right. And then the flip side of it is you'll learn the good, bad, and ugly, which is part of life. That some relationships may be bad, some relationships may be good, but then don't let that stop you from wanting to bond with people, but just
Right.
learn from it. So I think it's a life lesson when you talk about social self-care, because you can learn a lot, the do's and the don'ts, as I call it.
Right. And I was just gonna say, don't isolate yourself. A lot of
Right.
people don't know how to be sociable. And
True.
like you're saying, you got to pick and choose. Everybody are not sociable people, but I think when you isolate yourself and not be around people, and I believe too, going back to the mental part, even though we're done with that, but that can weigh on your mental health as well.
That's true. I agree with you. And some people may be socially inadequate, where
Right.
they feel insecure
Yes.
about being around people.
Yep.
And it's not that they purposely want to do it, but they may not know how, because they never learned or wasn't taught, or they might have had a bad experience of trying to socialize or trying to connect with others. So it's so many different, areas, that we have to think about, So, and some people are loners. Some people
Yes.
prefer to be by themselves. And I think it has to be a balance, even being a loner, because sometimes a person that's a form of isolation. It can lead into an unhealthy mental state, because I think it can open the door up for depression.
Yes.
If you're constantly a loner, never want to be around anyone, then, that's not healthy. Now, I can understand, where you want to be by yourself. You don't have to be around people every day, but have a balance. Find time to be able to have some type of social network or social activity,
Yes.
where you can, form some type of relationship with someone.
Yeah, because like meaningful relationships, like, when you spend time with other people, and fun people and people that care about you, that's where you get your sense of like love and care and concern for others. Isolated, you won't experience that. And like you said, being socially inadequate, sometimes people don't even know how to act in social settings because they don't go in social settings. But you can learn, you can educate yourself, start off small, a small group of people, one-on-one, and then work your way out there, especially like some people are introverts, but introverts still may socialize, but like when they're there, they may be more of a people watcher than a person that's, involved or putting, adding to conversations and things. But it's still social self-care is important. You gotta
I agree
spend
with
time
you. It is
with other people. It's good for your mental health. It gives you a sense of belonging. Again, you learn how to care and love other people.
And then you learn experiences with relationships. I look at it as a way of growing, a way of understanding where you're at too, because you can learn from yourself. It may be areas within yourself that you need to work on, and you won't know it if you don't try to be sociable with others. If you're doing it with yourself, of course, who else? You only yourself to talk to. But you can just learn a lot. And I think fear also keeps people from wanting to connect with others, because the fear of getting hurt, the fear of if I get too close, then you may do something, you may hurt me, or you may do this, that, or the other, and people may not want to take that chance. So I think it's also taking a chance.
That's something you bring that up, because I often think too, when you find people that don't like to communicate or socialize with other people, sometimes it be the battles that they're fighting within themselves, and they isolate themselves from other people because you don't really know what's going on with them, but they know. So it's like they stay away from people, because they fighting battles.
Yeah, that inward fight, that inner fight. So I think that's something, to, really consider. So just let you know that so many areas of self-care, and that's why it's really important to discuss it and really be able to know the different areas. So you know, what's healthy, what's not healthy, where you need to have a balance, where you need to work on something within yourself. And then that goes to physical self-care. And physical self-care is important too for your physical body. We talk about the emotional, we talk about the mental and the social, but what about the physical part of it? We need to make sure that our physical body is taken care of, you know.
It's a long list of physicals.
Yes.
I know it's a long list. I mean, that covers.
I'll name a couple, like walking, to make, you know, exercising. I'll say exercising.
Right, exercising.
Probably eating right. Try to learn
Exactly.
how to eat healthier.
Sleeping, having the proper amount of sleep. Like you had mentioned that earlier, I think you was talking about sleep.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever get the proper amount of sleep. I have to laugh at myself. I try so hard. Even if I go to bed early, and early to me is like going to bed, I don't want to tell nobody, like 12 o'clock. And I find myself waking up and all, and my son and my nephew, they tease me saying, "You up?" I get up, want to get dressed and everything by a certain time. I said, I don't know, maybe I don't need a lot of sleep. Maybe he made me where I only need a few hours.
I think it, okay, I won't even tell you how wonderful my 9 hours of sleep was last night.
Oh my
But
goodness.
I woke
awesome.
up very refreshed. I didn't feel like I needed to take a nap during the day. I think they, you know, those 4 different REM, well, it's 3 REMs, light sleep, deep sleep, and then there's REM sleep. And I think there's like some chart that tells you what happens during each of those phases, that healing takes place, cells are repaired. So to me, after reading about that, it made me really try to focus on getting enough sleep. I mean, but it's hard when you stay up and you're used to it. You have to like almost retrain yourself, like really actually go to bed early. And in most cases, if you only used to like a few hours, like you're saying, Liz, you probably, you know, you probably won't fall asleep right away when you get in that bed. You're gonna probably lay there just like wondering, dun, 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 waiting up for yourself to fall asleep. But I read, I try to drink hot tea. I try to do the things I can to make myself wind down. 2 things I cannot do because they say really affects it: TV and a cell phone or the computer, because of the blue light. It's something to do with the blue light that affects your sleep too. So,
well, I know that for myself too, even if I don't necessarily fall asleep, I rest my mind and my body. So to me, that's a form of rest too. Now, I still haven't mastered like going to bed at 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock. If I know if I went to bed that early, I know I'm gonna wake up. Or either if I sleep, I'm gonna be so rested up, it's gonna take 2 days for me to get a balance. I think, you know, my body is used to it, but I notice, you know, if I wake up too early, just laying and resting and meditating, you know, that helps me too, to rest my mind and my body.
And that's good.
So I do know the difference, yes.
Because that's part of physical care. So that's good.
Right. So I have to, you know, relax. And when I mean relax, I mean try not to think about anything, you know, but my mind always constantly is going, but I can train it and say, calm down now. We're not going to do nothing else. We're just going to, you know, slow it down. So I think that makes a big difference. And as we get older, we have to really pay attention to our physical body too.
Right.
That's very important. That's why I think when you're young, you have to be careful of the things that you do, because it can catch up with you as you get older.
Yes.
You know, so a lot of young people tease about, oh, you old, but you don't know if you're going to get to my age. So, you know, I know what I look like now, but do you know what you're going to look like 30 years from now? See, I know both sides. I look good when I was young and I look good now.
Right on.
That's right.
Okay.
Another physical aspect is going to the doctor.
Yes.
Dentist.
Yes.
Getting your checkups.
Physical.
Getting all of our, you know, preventive maintenance, I should say, and then also encouraging men to go get their
Yes.
checkups, because
Yes.
I think women do it way more than guys. But I
But
think
there's some
we
women
should
who
all,
don't do it either.
Yeah, that's
I think
true.
we should all make sure we get those specific tests annually that are required. Usually with decent insurance, they're usually free. And I think that's an important part, getting those checkups.
And you're so right, because it's very important too that I don't want to say us as women, I'm just saying everybody, men as well. You have to pay attention to your body. Like, it's very important, because if you don't pay attention to your body and you put things off and oh, it's just this, and you try to self-diagnose yourself, no, go to the doctor, get a checkup. If something ain't right, something ain't right. If you're used to one thing being one way and all of a sudden it changes, that means there's a problem somewhere. So it's important to stay and, go to your doctor's appointments and get your physicals. It's very important. You know how many lives can be saved if people get mammograms every year and pep smears, and men get their prostates checked. I mean, a lot of lives can be saved.
I think so too. I think that's something that we really need to focus on. And then also that brings us to spiritual self-care. I think that's a balance to our spirituality, far as, being able to spend time with God, being able to have a prayer life, being able to, read the Bible. Some people say that their form of spirituality may be their higher power. Well, higher power could mean anything. So I have to, let it be known what my higher power is, which is Jesus.
Yes.
Because, nowadays when you say higher power, higher energy, what does that mean? So, I think it's good to have a balance in that area too, because what it will do is give you a peacefulness about yourself. And I love peace, So having you been around people who are just so peaceful and so calm, and I think that comes from the spiritual side.
Yes,
only God can give you that.
Only God can give it to you. The peace that passes all understanding, right?
Yes, exactly.
Learn that there are certain things you can do, and then there are things that you just cannot. They're out of your control.
That's right.
Give them to the Lord to handle. You have that peace. He's working it out. You don't have to have anxiety or worry or fret, and worry yourself, or even try to solve all your own problems. I mean, it's a learned lesson. Like say in life, we live and learn. So we're not born knowing how to do that, but in time, we learn how to do that over time. And hopefully,
and I think that makes a big difference too. And like you mentioned about affirmation, that's the best affirmation for me is the scripture, because it empowers me, and it covers holistically, mentally, emotionally, all of it, all in one. Now, don't get me wrong, I like other affirmations too. So I don't limit. And I think that's something that we have to keep in mind too. We don't have to limit ourselves to what type of affirmations that we, read or listen to. It could be something positive, something about life. I like hearing things about life. I think that you can learn a lot, life applications or life lessons, that's I think you have to have a balance, the natural as well as the spiritual. You can't just be all in one, but you need to have a balance, know how to function naturally, know how to function in the world, and also spiritually, and the spiritual part will lead you in all areas that you go into.
So true.
So that's the beauty that I see far as the spiritual self-care.
And I'm sitting here listening to what you're saying when you're talking about the balance. And I think too, when you do have a balance, it's good to have that balance. But when you're spiritually connected, and like you said, you have peace no matter what's going on in your life, no matter what come may go, as they say, you okay. That spiritual part kicks in like, oh, I know who's in control. I'm okay. Exactly. I got peace in every situation, no matter what. I got peace. That's that spiritual side. That's that connection is what I call it.
Mm-hmm. It affects.
But also too, even let's say you come across, the flip side of it is, I'm an advocate here. The flip side of it is, if you come across a situation and you may not feel peace at that time, you may feel some kind of way, that spiritual self-care can rear you back in when
Kicks
you
you
don't
in.
stay
That's
there.
right. Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's something to keep in mind, because I think we are going to encounter some type of areas or situations which will ruffle our feathers and all. But I think the point is, the spiritual side will kind of like navigate you and help you find your path back. If you don't have it, you just stay out there wondering which way to go. You know, you just toss and turn. But if I had that spiritual self-care, it'll come back in and say, okay, Liz,
Right.
come back over here. I need you over here. Okay, I'm following you. I need to be here, because over here it's kind of rough. I'm gonna go over here where you lead me, and then I'm back where I need to be.
And that's so true. It reminds me of a conversation we all had a while back. And we were saying, you know, yeah, you may face difficulties, you may go through things, but it's like, okay, you're not going to stay down there too long.
Right.
You may have your moment, okay, it kicks in like, oh, do you know who you are? You're a child of God. Get yourself up. Get it together. You know who got this. So it's like, that's good, you know, to have that spiritual side where, you know, everything is not going to be like you think it's going to be. Everything is not going to be perfect. He never promised us that it was going to be easy. So it's like, you take what you know, you make your application, and when things come up against us, we know how to rear ourselves back in. Like, okay.
Yeah, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Like when you know, we definitely know life gives trials, challenges, tribulations. And every time, you know, it's like sometimes it's something new.
Right.
But praying and finding the peace is the same. It's the same process. It might just be a different circumstance and different situation. But every time you go through that and you do find the comforting words and able to give that over to the Lord and lay that there and not take it back and not try to handle it, you begin to grow. So spiritual growth is so important. That's going to affect, like, all of these self-cares are connected, because that'll affect our mental and our emotional sides as well. And probably help our physical, because we won't stress ourselves out into some type of, you know, illness or something. So definitely want to have sound spiritual foundation under us to help keep us,
and I think that is so true,
grounded and rooted, and not all over the place.
Yeah, so I think that makes a big difference. So with all of the different areas of self-care that we have covered this evening, then basically what we can say is that self-care is really important. It's something that we really need to pay attention to. All of us, you know, we haven't dot every I and cross every T, but at least that give us awareness of, if it's areas in our life concerning self-care, we just need to look at it and try to do better, and just make it a set of goals, you know, whatever area it is, set a goal and say, okay, this is where I need to work, this area I need to work on when it comes to self-care. But I just think the beauty of it is being able to talk about it. And I think this was a great, you know, conversation about self-care. I appreciate you ladies joining in this evening. And I would like for you to leave some encouraging words before we say goodnight to the audience.
If you don't take care of yourself, who will? And if you want to be your best self, take care of yourself.
All right.
I would like to say, concerning the emotional self-care part, why it's important. It's important to take care of our emotional well-being, allow you to feel better about yourself and more confident when handling unexpected challenges and any other type of relationships.
And all I want to just say is that love yourself. Love yourself enough to where holistically you will have that self-care that you need. And I just want to say thank you again. And we want to say good night. And we will be back again. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.